Hello, and welcome to the Say Yes Movement podcast, where we help you with your professional and your personal growth. Good morning, Heather. How are you?
Good morning, John, and happy Friday. It is Celebration Friday. What are you celebrating for this week, John?
Yeah, no, this week has been a great week. I launched my 30-day spring reset, which is really a community committed to wellness and health over the next 30 days, the month of May. I kind of lined it up so it kind of wraps up with my birthday at the end, where we can all eat cake together, which is great. So we had our group call on Monday night. We had a group meditation call on Wednesday, which was very zen. And it's been great. Listen, I'm so happy when people come together to work towards a common purpose, which is health and wellness, which to me is, incredibly important. And it's just been so nice just kind of connecting with a variety of people. But what's been really interesting? People in their 70s joining this group because they want to elevate their own personal health. And I'm like, wow, like it just blew me away. There were three people on the call that were of the age of 70, and they're still committed to health and wellness. And can I tell you what an inspiration that is to me?
Wow.
Like it's just, it raises my heart to know that there's people who are like, it doesn't matter what age you are.
Doesn't matter.
And you think about people in their 70s really not, doing the exercise, getting the movement in, and, consuming all the good stuff. It was so inspirational, so inspirational.
John, if other people want to join, how do they find you? How do they join this? This sounds incredible.
Listen, there's still time. There, some people have asked, can I, like, you guys started already? Absolutely, there's still time. I know you did a 30-day reset with me months ago. There's still time. All you got to do is send me a message, connect with me, and I will fill you in on the details. And you can catch our next call on Monday night, which is really cool because we went through the process, taking what we've done together, setting that goal, setting that vision for at least 30 days. And it's so important to know where you're going, especially as we reach, before we got onto this call, talking about the midway point in the year. Are you still on track? Do you even know what you're doing? I did a little survey on LinkedIn a little while ago. I said, how are you with your goals? Are you crushing them? Are you like halfway there? Or do you like wonder what they even are at this point? And, the results, I'm not surprised by the results, but only 10% were actually crushing it. 20%, were, midway there, and the other were like, what goals? So yeah, it's a good time to revisit what we're doing as well. What about yourself? What are you celebrating?
Honestly, John, it's a reset moment for me too. I was doing a lot of traveling. I had a pretty busy schedule. And in the last 2 weeks, it's like, okay, that is now behind me. And I need to get into a routine that actually works for me. And the routine that I'd sort of fallen into was, trying to do more. And this week I actually pulled back and said, doing more actually means more self-care. So I got back to my morning routine, back to my meditation. And let me tell you, like just that one change of, all right, I'm not going to just go to my desk or pick up my phone first thing in the morning. I'm going to go for a walk first thing in the morning. And sometimes it's only a quick walk around the block, but just that alone is so, so incredible. So I'm actually celebrating reset too, and reset and recommitment to, all right, if I really want to do more, then I need to have the energy to do more. That means I have to feed myself that energy. And I was actually doing things that were depleting my energy. I was working way too long. I was sitting at the desk too long. I was doing things that were depleting my energy. So I'm feeling the change. So sometimes, and John, I'm going to celebrate this, we make the mistakes that we've made in our past, but that's okay because today's a new day one for us. And that gives you the distinction that, oh, this is how that feels, but I want to feel differently. I want to feel good. So now I know what good feels like. But when you're always feeling good, that's the new baseline. Oh, I love the cup. Believe. Yes.
Yeah. It's a reminder of what you just mentioned. It's a reminder to go back to even our word for the year. Right? Like it's the little things. And, yes, I did that intentionally because our word is believe this year.
Okay.
Thank you, Lasso. Great show. But going back to just believe, right? Believe where you want to be, believe where you're going, believe in you, and part of that process, especially for me, going through this reset, the reset's also for me because I got a couple of things coming up. I got a triathlon that's coming up June 2nd, and then I got the Ride to Conquer Cancer the following weekend. And, it's one of the ways that I stay on track. And you know what? It's so easy to fall off track. It's
So
so easy to go back to behaviors. When I think about what we learned in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, it's about going back to that default setting. And it takes time for
yes.
you to switch it, right? And Heather, I'm so happy. I'm happy we're back together doing these calls. Like I'll be honest, I missed you, and I missed these calls. Being able to have these conversations, because they mean so. Like, they light up my Friday too, right? Like, they get me energized. They get me, psyched up for the rest of the weekend, and what's coming up for next week too. So yeah, happy to have you back.
Thank you. And I think for our listeners out there, we are live on Fridays, and, this is now back to live. A couple of ours were recorded previously on the weekends, but we do better live, John. We have an energy that gets created, especially when we have our audience commenting and integrating with us. So if you're out there, tell us what you're celebrating. We want to celebrate with you. Put it in the comments. You know that we reach out and check in with all of our listeners and see how they're doing. So if you're with us live, of course, that's what we can do. So, John, I want to talk about something that came up for me, in the last 2 weeks. So, I learned something new, and as an adult, learning something new is sometimes hard. And I learned, you're going to have a good giggle about this. I learned how to play pickleball.
Okay. Good stuff.
Now, when you think about pickleball, what comes to mind, John?
Well, I've played pickleball. I actually have a set of pickleball rackets and ball. Like, I got the whole kit and caboodle. Last year, was it last year? Diane and I, we experimented. We went to the courts a few times. And I know the city, like where I live, I'm up in Vaughan. The city is actually dedicating courts to pickleball, right? Like, I went to the community center for a swim the other day, and I saw these signs like pickleball, 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 pickleball. And I'm like, so Heather, I think you might have to explain what is pickleball to those that aren't familiar with pickleball, since you learned about pickleball.
I can definitely explain the game, but I actually want to explain the mindset around the game, because it was me and my sister and my good friend Tammy, and my other good friend Lisa. And Tammy actually has taken up lessons. So Tammy, if you're listening out there, thank you for giving us the lessons that you gave us. But when we said that we were going to play it, my nieces actually said, "Oh, it's an old person sport." And I was like, "Oh man, like that feels like I don't want to do it," because it was already labeled this old person sport. And when we got to the courts, it was not an old person. There was all ages there. It's super, super fun. And it was an easy game to pick up, but a hard game to master. So you can play it on day one, but of course there's some skills that you want to continue to build on. But the best part about it was, for those 2 hours that I was on the court, guess what I was thinking about? Nothing but pickleball. And that means that all of the stresses, all of the things that are in your day-to-day life, you can't pick up your phone while you're playing pickleball. So, it really helped to disconnect, to reconnect to how my body's moving, how my eye and hand coordination were working together, how I was being present for my partner. And when I think about all of those things, isn't that what leadership is about? Are we present for the person beside us? Are we present for the obstacles that are coming our way? Are we planning ahead for what's to come? And so I was just like, okay, pickleball and leadership is like, peanut butter and jelly. It's just amazing. Sandra, you want to try? We're going to go play pickleball together. Let me tell you, it's super, super fun. But the idea of learning something new is really scary sometimes. And even my sister was like, I wasn't gonna show up, and then she's now bought her own paddles. She's gonna join a tournament. And the other piece that's really neat about this, John, is it brings together community. So sometimes, especially now that we're past the pandemic, people are feeling lonely. Joining a community of pickleballers is just one way to connect. And I think that's so important for us. John, I'm new at pickleball, and do you see the same sort of connection points, or is it like, oh, I never even thought about it like that?
Yeah, no, listen, absolutely. Just, you're right. The one thing when I thought of it, I'm like, this is like an old person game, right? Like, why am I playing pickleball? but it's not, right? It's actually the fastest growing sport in North America, right? So
Yes.
pickleball is growing for all ages. And actually, there are new condominium complexes that are building pickleball courts, right? Not just tennis
Wow.
courts, but pickleball courts. It's amazing because it's a sport that every age can play. But you're right, absolutely, it brings you into the moment of just being present. You can't think about anything else. It may not seem like it's not tennis where the ball's flying across the court at 90 miles an hour, but the ball is going across the court, and you got to pay attention because there are rules in terms of where you have to hit the ball and all these different things. But you're right, it brings you to a moment of presence. And what I loved about what you just said too, as leaders, we have to be present with ourselves before we can even be present with others. And we
Yes.
forget that being present with ourselves is where everything starts, right?
So
So to
true.
be present with the team around you, fantastic. But if you yourself can't, and this is why I brought the weekly meditations or the group meditations into the 30-day reset, was to help everybody just focus on themselves. Find that inner voice. Bob Proctor says, when you're praying, God, you're speaking to God, but when you're meditating, God's speaking to you, right? It's like that
Mm.
spirit speaking to you, kind of giving you that internal guidance, getting silent. And that's what I love about these activities, these sports that we do. It gets us into a place where we have to be centered and focused so we can take care of everybody else around us. It's kind of like using the mask and the airplane analogy, right? Like we always have to take care of ourselves first. And if
A
we
hundred
don't do
percent.
that, then how are we taking care of the people around us? So important.
100%. And
Wow.
then
Love it.
have fun while you're doing it, right? There's just
Yeah.
so many benefits. And so, I know we're a little early for the call to action, but if you've ever thought, hey, I wonder what this pickleball craze is, well, there's a reason why there's a craze about it, because it's fun,
Mm,
it's exciting, it's a team sport, and everyone and anyone can do it. And isn't that what leadership's all about? Now, here's another fun fact. If you are a good tennis player, you'll have good eye-hand coordination. But here's the thing. Being a great tennis player does not make you a great pickleball player, because
yeah.
it's a different court and it's a different type of ball. And so that's another leadership lesson, because sometimes we're like, wait a minute, I'm really good at doing one thing. And then we get moved into another team or another environment. We're like, all of my skills aren't transferable, or I have to learn something new. And I think that's another thing that happens, especially I've seen it in leaders when they move up, to the next level, when they, take on a bigger team. They're like, wait a minute, I was really good at my job, and now I feel like I'm
Mm,
stumbling or anything like that. So that's okay. That's actually that's growth. That means you're progressing and you're changing the way that you're looking at the world in order to be the next best version of yourself. So,
yeah.
if you're a tennis player and you're like, oh, I can play pickleball, no problem. You got some new lessons to learn. And that is what a true leader can acknowledge and accept and take action on.
Yeah. No, listen, you talk about, I love that. I love the analogy between tennis and pickleball. You have the foundations, right? Here's the other thing too, and just to kind of build on what you just talked about, you're not starting from scratch, right? Every time people move and shift, because I've been talking to people about career transition and shifting, and they're like, I'm starting from scratch. You never start from scratch, right? You
No,
have that foundation. So if you're a tennis player going into pickleball, you have a foundation. What you got to do is build and use the different tools around you in order to play the game, which is what happens in leadership, right? As you're moving from role to role, things are going to shift, but that foundation, that core, never changes because that's
never
who you
changes.
are and that's what you bring with you into those new roles. And Nicole, I love what you're saying. Being present for my team, that makes me question my behaviors and practices as a leader. Does this actually make me available for my team, or is it separating me from my team? Ooh, that's a good question.
Ooh, that's a
So,
great
yeah.
question.
So
Think
being
about think
present. Yeah. So go ahead, Heather. Go ahead.
No, thank you. I was just, Nicole, this is such a powerful question. And it is one that advanced leaders ask themselves and actually take action on. And the simplest form of my non-negotiable, if you've heard me say this before, is, every day my goal, my non-negotiable is to impact 5 people a day. And so I'm actually asking myself every single day, am I being present for my team, or am I separating from my team? And so it's just another version of that, but with the actual impact that I want to make. So
Mm.
I think that you're on the right track for, are you doing enough that you can be present and that you have the mindset for that? What a powerful question, Nicole. That is
Yeah.
advanced leadership right there.
I love the question. You listen, and being present is sometimes simple, right? Like put down the phone, right?
Mm,
I've been in calls, I've been in rooms with leaders, we're having conversations, and they're doing this the whole time.
yeah.
I'm like, hello, I'm right here. I'm right here. Right. So, one of the things I love about coaching, and this is, for me, this is where I need to be present, right? Like as a coach, you got to be present in the conversation. You have to eliminate the distractions around you.
Yes.
Right. And being present, that's practice, right? Like that's especially in this world where things are coming at you, and you got alerts popping up on your screen, you got alerts popping up on your phone, you got people tugging on you. If you got little kids, you're working at home, like there's just so many distractions that are always pulling you away from just being present, that you kind of have to practice just blocking all of that out and just being in that moment. And we know, we talked about this on other episodes. I was actually just going through a couple of our older episodes, and wow, like what a transition we've made personally, Heather, from 2022 to where we are today. We've become more present. These
Mm,
conversations are on us being present. Now that we've ironed out the technology, because that was one of the issues that we had initially at the beginning, we've ironed out the technology. We can be present because we're focused on just this conversation. We're focused on, speaking to the audience, speaking to Sandra, speaking to Nicole, and whoever else is listening, and just sharing these insights. Like being present is something you have to practice. It's not like you're automatically a master at it. It's
no.
something you have to practice, right?
Absolutely. So, John, we're going into the weekend in Toronto, and it's going to be a little bit of a rainy one. This shouldn't stop you. This shouldn't stop you. People, look, you just did it. The
No, I
reaction to the
know, because
weather,
I
right?
was going to go out for a long bike ride this weekend, because I'm training
Yeah.
for this, Ride to Conquer Cancer that's coming up in 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And I need to get out onto the road to get my bigger, longer rides in.
Yeah.
And now you're telling it's not going to rain. You know what? I'm telling you right now, it's not going to rain Saturday morning between 6 and 9 or 6 and 10. It's going to be perfect
Perfect.
weather. Yes.
Perfect. Well, and the power of manifestation. You can't say no rain. You actually have to say sunny. You have to say the
Sunny.
opposite, right?
That's right. Yes.
It's
It's going
going
to
to be
be
the
sunny,
perfect weather for your ride
perfect
for the
weather for riding.
exactly amount of time that you need. So just reverse engineering that sentence so that your brain can actually influence what you want around you. And of course, you might have to get a little bit earlier to make sure you catch that good weather, but it's there for
Yeah.
you. It's definitely there
Well,
for you.
thank you.
So John,
So,
go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry, I know we got a minute, but I just wanted to say thank you for helping me correct my language, because there are things that sometimes I say to myself I don't even realize. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. That's
Mhm.
and this is another important factor. You can only help people reframe something if you're present in the conversation and you have trust with that person. John, we've
Mm,
worked together. We both help each other with our language because we want to up level, and we do it in a way that is all right. Let's reframe this so that we can actually
yeah,
manifest exactly what we're looking for. So, if you heard that coaching moment, check in with your language too that you're using every single day, and is it helping you propel yourself forward and be present, or is it holding you back? Because guess what, the most of the time, the number one thing that's holding us back from our success is ourselves. And if
yeah,
that
100%.
resonates with you, this weekend, here's our call to action for you. It's time to learn something new. It's time to get uncomfortable. It's time to try on something. It can be pickleball. It can be getting on your bike again. It can be anything that matters to you. It can be trying something with the kids, get the soccer ball out. But I would invite it to be something with movement and something with learning something new. And with those two things, you are going to be forced to be present because you're not good at it. You have to try your hardest. So that is our call to action. This will take you to a whole nother level of leadership, and it's going to be good for your body, mind, and soul. John, take it away.
Yeah, actually, I do have a request before we do wrap up. So one of the things I am, and I've talked about throughout this podcast, is doing the Ride to Conquer Cancer. And one of the things I
Mm,
need to do is fundraise for this event. This is my 10th year completing this ride. So I will be completing the ride. It's a 200-kilometer ride from Toronto to Hamilton, Hamilton to Niagara Falls. So what I am going to be including, what I would request is if you would be open to donating to my ride, I would love that. I'll include a link to the Ride to Conquer Cancer, my team, a little team called Team Courage, which I love, or an Italian team, Coraggio. We're courageous, and we're getting up to that 750,000 mark in terms of donations that we've made to the Ride to Conquer Cancer over the last 10 years. So if you'd be open to, I'd love to share that with you. And if you'd be open to making a donation, I would appreciate that. Anything over $20 gets a tax receipt. So just wanted to kind of include that in there as well. Listen, cancer impacts 2 in 5 people now. And if there's something that we can do to prolong longevity for people who are going through that and making their experience better, I'd love to be a part of that.
100%.
All right.
Thank you, John, for doing that. It's a wonderful cause.
Thank you. All right. So that concludes this episode of the Say Yes Movement podcast. Thank you for listening in. And just remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing you all a great one. Talk to you later. Take care.